So today we're here with Mrs. Kendal Fleshman. Kendal, can you tell us a little bit about your teaching experience thus far?
Yes, I've been teaching for 14 years. I originally started off in Las Vegas, Nevada as my first job and also my education in my undergrad and graduate school. I originally started teaching at middle school. I taught 6th, 7th, and 8th grade math and a life skills class. Then I moved over to a 3rd grade classroom in a magnet school that dealt with communications and fine arts and taught there for 6 years. Then I moved to Idaho and I taught science K through 8th at a charter school in Hidden Springs. And then I moved to homeschooling for 3 years and worked with families that homeschool their kids and helped teach the parents how to teach their kids who chose to keep their kids at home, to provide them an education, whether it was they needed more one-on-one attention or they needed more advanced stuff. Then I have been teaching, this is my 4th year at Idaho Arts Charter, and I teach a combination class of 1st and 2nd.
Wow, that sounds like you're really well-rounded with all the grade levels and even working with parents. So that's great. So can you give us a good picture of what your general classroom management is, like your plan?
Yes, I believe your classroom management starts day one, even at 1st grade when parents, I think, want a typical 1st and kindergarten teacher. I believe that you love the kids, always show them that you love them, but you have to be strict and stern and structured. I think structure, kids crave structure, students crave structure, adults crave structure because they know what's expected of them and they know how far to push. And when they start pushing, that's when you have to rein them in to what's acceptable and not acceptable. And that's when kids start pushing, that's when you'll see misbehaviors. So I think day one, you have to already go over that. You may not have mismanagement kids day one, but you already have to tell them, if this happens, this is the consequence that will happen. I believe in making sure kids have rewards and consequences. So they know the rewards first day of school, they know the consequences the first day. I also believe in a community atmosphere with classroom management because I feel if students have a vested interest and they feel they've contributed to the classroom procedures, then they are more apt to follow them because they have ownership in them. So that first week of school, we talk about what classroom rules we should have, and we try to narrow it. And typically I try to get the kids and kind of hone them in on 3: being respectful, being responsible, and being safe. And pretty much most of the stuff in your classroom management and procedures can fall under those categories. And we just take it back. The kids will create posters, they'll draw pictures of examples of what that looks like in outside, inside, at home. I always like to pull in the home as well because they do have to go home and continue to act, and that helps their citizenship too.
Wow, that sounds like a really comprehensive plan. I like that. And how they really contribute to it, which makes them even more accountable to those roles.
Yes.
So how you did mention how you keep it consistent by keeping it structured. And would you say the meaningful part is how much they're involved in creating the rules maybe?
Yeah.
Or do you have anything to add to that?
I think when the kids want to be helped and supported, but they also want a parent. They love to be, to help each other. And the atmosphere I try to create, and it doesn't always work just based on kids' background, but the atmosphere I try to create is that you are responsible for you and you alone. But we have to help support kids that it may not come as easily to them based on their background. So I've developed reward systems. The kids get these little chance tickets. And honestly, it's a piece of paper that's cut and they put their name on it. Mm-hmm. It doesn't cost me hardly anything. And those chance tickets, you'd think I'm handing them a $1 bill every time. And they love getting them. They go back to them and, oh, she's handing out chance tickets. I'll hand out chance tickets for the kids sitting in their chair correctly. I'll hand them out for raising their hand or lining up. I just hand them out for, a ton of them. And then they put them in a bucket, and on Friday I pull 5 out, So a kid could have 500 in there or I could have 500 in there. A kid could have 20 of them, and there's only 5 kids that are going to the treasure box. And it's kind of a letdown when they don't win and they've worked so hard, but they never stop giving. Because I'm telling them the more they earn, the more their chances are better. Plus, we're doing math in it. So they love to work for that. I also have a good kid grid. When a kid moves outside of their, not even comfort zone, but just does something so nice, it fills their bucket and makes everybody happy or smile. I have a good kid grid, and I put their name on a good kid grid, and when the good kid grid is full and we talk about coordinates, I pull a coordinate and the kid looks at the coordinate, and if their name's there, they go to the treasure box. And they absolutely love that as well. Another reward we have is the kids, for some reason, love to sharpen pencils and wash tables. And so the kids, it's help the teacher. What do you want to do to help the teacher? So and they'll get to stay in at recess and help me if they want, or they can go help another teacher as a reward for them. And then we do a self-manager where the kids self-manage their behavior. And the kids, my classroom theme in first and second is frogs. So we have a pond that all the kids' names are on a pond. And when they are contributing to the community, they stay in the pond. When they've made poor choices, which is a consequence, they get pulled out of the pond. But the pond is so large, they can come back into the pond when they've adjusted their behavior. And it typically takes a day to a week for the kids to adjust their behavior. And I check them on Friday, and why were you pulled off, and have you corrected that behavior? And then they tell me if they have or not. And I leave it up to them. And sometimes we have to have side conversations of, do you remember this situation? Reminders of, I think we're still working on getting back in the pond so we can contribute to the classroom all the time. And they really seem to respond to that. It's a reward as well as a consequence. And then at the end of the month, we have a self-manager breakfast. And the kids bring stuff, and they can eat breakfast with me. And sometimes they vote to have lunch with me instead. And I don't provide it. The parents send in. They contribute like a community. We sit on the floor and eat lunch, or we'll sit at tables and eat breakfast, and they just really work for that. So it could be a consequence and a reward. Some consequences we do have when the kids aren't following classroom procedures is they typically get a warning. I use a SNAP system. It's a nonverbal for me. I can continue teaching, and when I snap, it's that snap. The kids will immediately draw their oh, is it me? And most of them know who it is, and they'll tap their friend, hey, get back on point. Mm-hmm. So that is another warning skill I use. If the behavior does continue, then I'll have them removed, and I just call it uninvited, and the kids go to their seat and put their head down. So I teach them it's like a birthday party. You get invited for a birthday party, you want to participate, but you're not choosing to. We still want you at the party, but you just kind of need a timeout. But I don't put them in a corner. I just put them at their seat with their head down so they can, 1, reflect, 2, they can still hear the instruction, because I don't want to remove them and that instruction piece be lost. So I just say they're uninvited, they go to their seat, they participate, and then when I'm able to talk to them, I go have a conversation of, why are you here? Because sometimes they really don't know why they were there. Even because they just haven't been paying attention or didn't realize that snap was for them. If the behavior continues, we have a consequence jar. And before that, they'd be pulled off self-manager. If they're already off self-manager, then they go to the consequence jar. And the consequence could be wipe tables, pick up trash at recess, lose 5 minutes of recess, help clean the hallway. Our hallways in the school are messy. Or I'll give them, a chore that they need to do to help clean, wipe, door handles, doorknobs with sanitizer, wipe bookshelves down, those kind of things where they're contributing to the community back from something that they've taken. And then a last resort would be call parents or email parents. And I typically have the kids call their parents and let them know why we're calling, and then I'll follow up with a conversation with the parent, depending on the kid and the situation that has happened as well. Mm-hmm. So those are some of the consequences and rewards that we do. And another reward is just being in my classroom. It's just great to be here.
I would agree with that from what you've said. I would like to be in your class. So the final thing I have to ask you, what tips can you give for first year teachers when really challenging behavior occurs with students? What can they do?
That is a great question. If I had the magic golden key to answer all that and solve every misconduct, I would be probably a millionaire. First, consistency. I think if you establish procedures and consequences and rules with kids, that behavior is drastically decreased. The other thing is sometimes kids will have misbehavior because they don't feel safe at home to misbehave. There was incidences where I've had kids lash out at me, and it's because they feel so comfortable that they feel that I'm the best next adult kin to them, and they feel the safest. So I kind of take it when they misbehave as like a compliment, that they're not afraid of me in the sense that I'm calling out for help. I need help, and this is the way I'm going to get it. There's different types of misbehaviors too, based on background, based on the student, based on their experiences they've had with teachers or parents. Are they coming from different homes? There's so many factors that fall into that misbehavior. I think getting to the root of it, when a child misbehaves, sometimes we'll go into the hallway or I'll pull them back to my desk. Depends on what the other kids are doing. I don't try to make it a huge public scene and a lashing, a reprimand, an embarrassment. But there is definitely a stern talking when kids are misbehaving, and it's a consistent thing, and we've tried to work through things. I've put together behavior plans for kids like that, and some kids just physically and mentally cannot not keep it together, and it's out of their control. So I think for a first year teacher, getting to know your parents, getting to know background, the first call I make when we have misbehavior and I have not been able to solve it in procedures, I say, what works for you at home? And a lot of times those parents will say, I don't know. I'm struggling too. Or this is what works. Let's try this. Calling those parents in immediately. Don't let it drag on. The quicker you let them know, and the child as well as the parents know that we're a team. I'm not here. We're a chair. We're a three-legged chair. It takes the child. It takes you. It takes me. And if we're not working together, we're going to fall apart. You cannot sit on a two-legged chair. 4 legs is great. Who else can we involve?
Yeah.
But 3 legs is you have to be able to sit. And that works in a relationship as well. So building those and letting that kid know maybe they're searching for just somebody to love them, and they're testing you to see if you even care because they feel like they haven't been loved. And sometimes the parents don't care. So you have to do whatever you can in the time period you have to build that, but not get frustrated when they let you down or they have an outburst or an outbreak, because that time will come where you're instilling just those little things in them that they may take with them later in life. You can only do what you can do in the hours that you have them and support them. But being consistent, involving parents, letting the child know that you're there for them, and not saying, hey, I'm here for you, by showing them, and letting them feel like they are in a safe environment to express themselves. Behavioral plans if needed, contacting the school counselor to maybe get them in a group. It depends on the behavior. Like you could have just somebody who likes to flick rubber bands, or you could have somebody who likes to pull girls' hair because they're like them, or you could have a kid who's completely sleeping because they didn't get any sleep the night before. I mean, misbehaviors, they vary. So if I had the golden ticket, I'd be rich. But those would be my suggestions. Build that classroom procedure and stick to it. The minute you waver, you've now become that parent that the kid, when the mom says no, they go to the dad, or the dad says no, they go to the mom or the grandma and work the system, because kids are so smart and they're resilient.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you. That was really, really good advice, and I really appreciate you taking the time to talk about your classroom management. Thanks, Kendal.
Absolutely.